We go.
Thank you, sir.
For the board, we have two abstentions, that it doesn't pass. Need,
All right, I'll vote aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
reason being precedent.
So Hannah, was it someone on Zoom that mentioned that?
Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
so they're probably in the chat too.
Okay.
Give me 2 seconds and I'll be on with you and I'll be looking
It
at the
was
chat for you.
just the community, I muted, so.
Okay. All right, very good. So
That's why I
that's,
logged
you
in,
know,
so that I
someone's
can-
out there, then maybe they should let us know. Yeah, there we go. All right, very good.
Other Mac member.
We.
So here comes,
Vicky, Vicky.
Just.
I was gonna say, she just sent an email, I think she's coming.
We have a door stop for that door, so that. I am also that, okay. Well, first, good to be here again. It's not quite as big a turnout as we had when we had talked about the bike lane. That was a packed house, like clear. So, this time I did something different, for our report. I'm gonna go through it quickly, but I did, we emailed it to the members, they do have hard copies of it. Thought it's helpful to have the presentation also in writing, but not that I won't add to it. And I know you're gonna have a Councilmember Wanda with city county collaboration next. You and I talked about some opportunities about how to collaborate between the city and county for the valley. So the first thing I wanted to say, we finished our interviews for our for the vacant MAC seat and for, unfortunately, a soon to be vacant seat. Those soon will be moving home to a jolly old team. So we are gonna lose, there'll be some joint away party for you. English stuff, right? So,
It's a pretty good thing.
so her seat will be vacant in June, but she's gonna work hard until then. Right, and so we conclude our interview and I did decide to make appointments for both. So and I'll introduce them, they are here. Randy Lloyd, he and his wife Amy own El Sobrante Feed, you may be familiar with that. He also works in the labor union representing building trades workers, steam fitters. And hardworking men and women, and so I will be appointing him to the vacant alternate seat. And then in June, when Sue resigns, I will elevate him to the regular position. And then that opens the alternate seat again, and I will be appointing Terry Edlinger to that. So that, just wanted to dispense with that, and so Randy will be at the next sitting up here at the next meeting, we'll process it at the board, so we hope you'll have a full contingent. Okay, you're ready to go. So let me quickly go through the updates, and again, they're on here. And they all affect El Sobrante, so I will start first with a major air district settlement. As you know, I serve on the air district board. And clean air for all of us in West County is important. And several years ago, we passed a major refinery rule to reduce particulate matter from a major unit at the refinery by 70%. Just to give you a perspective, the Chevron refinery represents about 63% of the particulate matter pollution in West County, in the Richmond San Pablo area. And so after several years of lawsuits, both Chevron and the Martinez refinery withdrew their lawsuit, agreed to comply, which means they will be installing the equipment necessary to reduce particulate matter by 70% in this used piece of equipment. And in addition, they've been assessed substantial fines, $20 million for past violations. $20 million on top of that will be put into a community health fund. I chair the equity committee at the Air District, and we will be developing a community process where the Richmond, San Pablo, North Richmond area community will help drive what those investments are. They have to be investments to reduce particulate matter and improve health. And so that's $20 million of it into a health fund. There's $20 million in penalties. We are also in the process of changing a policy at the Air District. I support this change that results in a good portion of penalty monies being spent in the community where we collect.
That's good.
So that would be $20 million from Chevron in Richmond. We'll tend to spend a good portion of that in this area. In addition,
That's good,
Yeah.
John.
We've been fighting for this policy for
For a
several
long
years.
time.
Yes, it's finally gonna happen. And then because because the refinery had not been working to comply with the regulation, they are most likely not gonna meet the compliance date of July 2026. So remember, we passed this rule in 2021. So they will be assessed penalties for every year they don't comply. We would prefer that they comply. It's gonna take them a year to construct this piece of equipment, and it could take them more than a year, could take them longer to get permitted by the city of Richmond. So it's likely they may face 1 year penalties, possibly more. Just to give you an idea, the penalties are $17 million a year. And it's 32 million in the fourth year. And every year they don't comply, it's an extra 3.5 million to the health fund. So it's likely they're gonna pay an additional 20 million. They may pay substantially more. It's the largest penalty ever assessed by your district. And we are glad they are working to comply, and we'll see how that moves along. So Ayla, Councilmember Bond and her colleague will get to vote on that permit. Hopefully it'll get processed in a way that they comply as soon as possible. So yes, if they don't, they'll be paying penalties. And they will also, part of the settlement is they will be taking some immediate steps to reduce flaring. Their district will be monitoring that. They will also be taking early steps to reduce particulate matter in parts of the refinery in advance of the 2026 deadline. And the result of that will be less asthma, less respiratory, less cancer. I mean, the health department acknowledges that particulate matter is obviously harmful to our health. So that's the settlement. Affects folks in Sobrante. Second item, there's been a lot of discussion about noise.
Before you
yes,
move on.
yeah.
So this is an amazing thing, because it's a real issue of environmental justice as well.
Right.
I used to teach at a primary school, which was right on the border with Chevron school.
That's when you started
Chevron
teaching.
That's right, and the kids used to have one little Kleenex to put over their mouths in case of emission. I'm hoping that there might be some sort of investment in some kind of clinic, some sort of free clinic for people who live in that area that would specialize in respiratory issues.
So good points. I'll say two things. The penalty money hopefully can be spent more broadly.
Okay.
The health fund has to be spent to actually do a project that reduces particulate matter pollution. But the penalty money could be broader and could do things like that. Yes, so that's good points.
And I would add that every single woman in my El Cerrito church, except me, has had breast cancer.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that's not West County.
Right, and well, and as we know, health issues due to many things, environmental factors, genetic factors, behavioral factors, access to healthcare, yes, so environmental.
But when it gets to be that
factors.
much,
Yeah,
you
right.
wonder about the environmental.
And the calculation is that 63% of the particulate matter that comes out in this immediate area in West County comes from the refinery. Most of the rest of it comes from things like diesel trucks and things like that, and of course, over time, those diesel trucks will get replaced with electric trucks over time, but right now, they're the motorists.
There is that weird secret factory on Highway 4 off to the left. You know the one I'm talking about?
That's it's closing, it's a carbon plant, that's right. As the Phillips refinery shifts from refining crude to refining renewable fuels like biofuels, soybean oil, that plant is closing. That plant, right, is part of the refinery crude oil processing too, so that will close.
And so that probably puts.
They're
one of
gonna
those
clean, that is a polluting plant, yes, we passed a regulation at the air district several years ago to reduce pollution from there, not eliminate, but reduce pollution. But it will close and have zero emissions, right? Then they'll have to clean up the site, and we'll see what happens at that site, yes, exactly. Second item on noise, obviously a big issue here, so the board of supervisors has done two things. The first, we've been giving reports on this, the planning department finally produced their plan. To do outreach with all the MACs about noise issues, so they're going to reach out to every MAC in the county, because in order to look at a noise ordinance, we have to talk to all the MACs. And they're gonna start this process, they're gonna do surveys, they're gonna ask MAC members and others to serve on a working group, so think about who here No more than two of you, one or two serve on a work group, countywide work group on noise issues, you can decide that at another time. And they'll work together, then come back with a recommendation to our board before the end of the year. So these processes take time, and as I said, we've got to check in with other members, so that will happen. In addition, we strengthened an existing temporary events ordinance that I think will address some issues, not all. Some of you have raised issues of loud gatherings. So under this temporary ordinance, the way it's been amended and the way it will work is any gathering that is partially outdoors or in what's we call an accessory building in a residential area, meaning a garage or barn. So if it's all indoors in a barn or a garage, or if it's partially in a house and outside. And it has 75 or more people, it is subject, it needs a permit in many cases, not in all. But whether it needs a permit or not, it has to abide by certain noise standards. And that is no amplified sound after 8, Sundays through Thursdays. No amplified sound Fridays, Saturdays and holidays after 10. And then the exterior noise limits, which I put here, the decibel limits. So that's something that has taken effect. So, but again, it would apply to someone's party of 75 or more people. They need a permit unless it's a wedding, a birthday, or a family gathering or graduation party. People don't need permits for a personal event, but they're still subject to the noise standards. So that's the temporary event.
Does it get extra bad if you weren't invited?
Yeah, yes, you know. You're gonna complain.
So the one thing in the issue about reaching out,
Yeah.
again,
Oh,
they were here and.
Yeah.
It's basic, it's noise.
Yeah.
Parties, that's pretty
Right,
much
well,
it.
right, but there's many, remember that there are a lot of enforcement and implementation issues on how you deal with it, right? And the temporary events ordinance is one way, it's in effect,
It's not
for 75 or more people, right? And we don't wanna require you to have a permit to have a birthday party at your house, but you have to abide by the noise standards. If you do other events, kinds of events that aren't personal, you need a temporary permit.
Right, I get that, I was just reading in the first paragraph about initiate a process to better understand the community concern. They know our.
Well, it differs, based on the point, it differs by parts of the county. It differs in Bay Point, Bethel Island, Apple, and I think they're trying to look at how do we develop an ordinance that, how do we develop other regulations on, there's 180,000 people that live in all the incorporated areas, and they're so different.
I know, what I'm getting at is for us, it's repeating ourselves, that's all I'm saying.
But this time your voice is gonna be in a countywide effort with planning to look at how to sort of look at.
Oh, okay, I'll say this because Ronnie forwarded us a memo,
Right,
and what you're saying here. Gives me more hope than that memo, because there seemed to be in the memo, a lot of like. Whatever,
well, look, the memo was sort of what the board of supervisors approved in the process. But it will take the work of the MAC members. So that's, thank you. Another, I think, Counselor, you were the person that, I'm showing you respect.
Hysterical, thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. So, you didn't raise this, somebody else raised it, somebody.
My number one issue has
But it's
been,
about art, talking about, about
well, the
art.
art is a secondary issue,
right.
and that really came from Nicole Dunn.
Yes, that was it, okay, cause some people raised it, so there was a proposal to do a mural, right? So the county, that made us step back and say, we need to do a countywide policy on public art, so it's not ad hoc. And so that has been approved by the Internal Operations Committee of our board, and it will develop a policy about how we're gonna sort of look at this and how to get community input. We don't want one person coming to us saying, we wanna do some art here, and then we haven't talked to the community and gotten input and figured out if there's more than one artist that wants to do it. It's sort of, so it's looking at public art on county buildings, facilities, and utility boxes. Like in Kensington, people said, oh, we want art on the utility boxes, on ones we own. here, maybe the library or something else, so. We are, because we started, there's gonna be a working group put together that's gonna develop a policy also this year. So that we can have a policy about, how are we gonna select artists, how are we gonna cite them, where are we gonna cite them? People request it, how do we consider those requests, how do we get community input, not just the map, but neighborhood, if it's in the middle of the neighborhood and people live near it. Believe me, in Kensington, this has come up in other ways, nobody can agree on a piece of art. Right, I mean, it's like people disagree over a welcome sign. It's like after they went through a process, so, what we think could be easy isn't always easy. So this is to develop a process, and once we have that process, we will then consider the artwork on murals.
Yeah, now, my issue
Yeah.
is, emergency services, healthcare in West End.
Yeah.
That's my issue,
I can talk a little about that.
100%.
Sure,
Okay,
I can add on to the list and say that,
yeah,
okay?
okay,
So. Next item, the Maui property and potential park. I did, both Sharon and I, Sharon from Citizens for Greater Health, Brian and I had a meeting not too long ago. With the new owners of the Maui property, who own the car wash next door. They now purchased the Maui property. What they said, and they said they wanna extend just a little bit of the part of the area of the car wash onto the site, but what they mostly wanna do is build some type of mixed use, multifamily housing with retail below. So that opened the door to talk about, well, how do we incorporate a park as part of that, right? So Sharon and I were talking with them, and I have a meeting set up with them, follow-up meeting with them in county planning to talk about that. We do have park fees, every jurisdiction imposes a park fee on housing developments. We may be able to use this to sort of negotiate or leverage some ability to build for them to put money into a park, the back part of their property, which allow and have them have more density. That site is general plan redesignation for that site allows some good density for housing on the front portion of the site. And we got more mixed use housing on Dam Road could be a really good thing, it brings more people, sort of like what El Cerrito's done on some of the developments, not that tall, but could bring more housing and retail downtown in El Sobrante. So in exchange for the density, we may, get the leverage, negotiate with them to do some type of smaller park. Still not inconsistent with doing a town square, but having across the street, but still a smaller park. So the follow-up meeting I have scheduled with them and planning to talk about what they're proposing and look at something like that. Process, right? Always an
And if
opportunity.
I may, John, I always will push for a boardwalk along the creek.
Yeah. I do, yes, I think
Keep
that
that in
takes,
mind.
yes, we had a vision about that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And remember the community, there were people in the community that didn't want eminent domain, we did redevelopment. Remember Maryland
Mhm.
and other people who fought doing eminent domain. I mean, Richmond had eminent domain and their redevelopment. We did not do eminent domain powers for El Sobrante. That would have been the easiest way to sort of say, oh, let's take people's property, buy it and turn. So now you would have to negotiate with every single property owner, buy it, and then design something along the creek. But this is a start, this could be one item, so that's the Maui property. Bike lane, San Pablo Dam Road and bike lane. A little under 200 residents responded to the survey. Survey says about 80% supported a dedicated bike lane and road diet between Appian Way and Castro Ranch Road. Remember, there were two options, shorter version and then a longer, a little more delay if you went longer. So that was good to see, that's not everybody, but it was a good survey. So I've asked Public Works to actually finalize a recommendation that would come back here to the MAC. Get your recommendation, goes to the Board of Supervisors, and if we approve that, then officially they can start looking for funding. Cause it will take some funding to implement that plan. They already are looking at some grant opportunities. But they'll do more once it's approved by the board, but it'll come back hopefully at maybe the next meeting, so we can move forward with it. I'm anxious to move forward with it. I think we have studied this a long time. And there's always trade-offs, but I think there's been a lot of really good community support, and so it goes from Councilor Radish to me. Then we have, you know, the issue, how do we work on downtown, so that's that'll go forward. We are gonna do on April 6th, we have the flyers, a coffee with myself and the sheriff deputies, just to meet here at the library about local issues with the sheriff deputies. Always law enforcement issues come up, as you know, we increased funding about a year ago for our beat officers to increase coverage, you know, it's, I think it more than what it was, so and people can have questions about that with issues. And then on May 11th, we're working with Confire for a pre-season wildfire preparedness town hall and open house. It's been about a year since we reopened the Knoll Fire Station using Measure X funds, so we're gonna do a town hall from 10 to 11 on wildfire preparedness and an open house from 10 to 2 for the fire station, right? Everyone is welcome to come. Tomorrow, we're actually having a meeting with, it's not on here, with East Bay Regional Parks to explore, try to get them to work with the county on this maintenance of that private part of Clark Road. You know, Clark Road is all in the unincorporated area until it gets to the park, and it's in the city of Richmond. The first portion is a county maintained road. Then the last block is a private road.
It's a nightmare.
It's a private, and there's a lot of private roads around the county, right? And it, you know, the traffic is driven by the school, it doesn't have money. And when the park, when we did some research, when the park district approved their trailhead there, their environmental documentation assumed that that was a public road. It is not a public road, that last block, it's a private road. So we're gonna work with them, and if we can get them to agree, then maybe the county and the park district can work on some maintenance for that last portion of road, so that's something we are doing.
Just before you move
Yeah.
to Clark Road, we met briefly with the Richmond police
Yeah,
officers.
yeah.
On Monday with several neighbours with regard to crime reduction up there. And we wanted, I think, Ronnie, I sent you a request to put that on the agenda for next time with consider the approval of signage, lights and cameras up there.
You know where that can come up, I know one of the issues that I know Councilwoman Vaughn is gonna talk about is one area that we could work together on is looking at camera issues. So I think rather than look at one location, is what's a program, what are the possible locations? Cause some of, as you know, when it crosses into the park, it's in the city of Richmond, before it crosses into the park, it's the county. So, you know, it's one of the areas for collaboration and cooperation between the city and county.
Yeah, the police officers said that they already coordinate with the county sheriff
Right.
to try and
Yeah.
use, and we do have
Right.
a response rate up there, but they have had a fair amount.
The good
of
news
response.
is this, you know, whether or not, you know, wherever the politicians are, police and fire. By cities and counties work well together, right? That's the good news. They all, you know, they've been working together for decades, and that's good. We wanna collaborate and strengthen that, and look at other things, but they do have a good working relationship. You know, I'm glad to do a presentation, a full presentation, to go out on sort of some efforts on hospital issues. I talked to the CEO of John Muir. It'll I mean, and you know, I know.
Well, that was my request to
Right.
Ronnie, is I would love to hear from public health or whoever. Because I have friends who are frontline staff, nurses in the emergency department at Kaiser, and it's not Kaiser's fault.
No.
Kaiser, after doctors closed, and I know you opposed that when it closed. Once
kept
doctor
going for
closed,
10
it
years,
just was a
right.
disaster. And poor Kaiser
Right.
and every Kaiser member.
Yeah, 60% of the emergency room patients at Kaiser are non-Kaiser patients.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's because, and they, you know, those people have, and I would hope that those folks would get included. I mean, people like nurses who work at Kaiser and work in
Right.
emergency departments, to talk about, you know, how you could do a specialty clinic or something. That might
We've been,
take the weight off of that so that they could do the emergencies for which they are really geared towards.
why don't we have a presentation on that
We'd love to.
specifically? I mean, one of the things we did after doctors closed is we put some funding into improved urgent care. Well, at the time, half the people who were either emergency needed urgent care,
Right.
and not emergency care. So that's half the patients. So one of the things we did is try to, and Lifelong built an urgent care facility right near where the old doctors is. So there's those kinds of things. We can talk about, I mean, the bottom line in terms of a new hospital, it'll cost at least $500 million to build a new hospital and hundreds of millions of dollars to operate it. So
I don't think that.
no, right, well,
That's a good idea.
let me, yeah, but yeah, I'm saying, no one can build a standalone hospital. I think the greatest possibility we have, and I've talked with the CEO of John Muir, is John Muir and UCSF have talked about a partnership, but ultimately, they're gonna have to believe that it is worth their investment, because Sutter's not gonna build one. Sutter's in Oakland and Sutter's in Vallejo. We've talked to Sutter. There's nobody else out there other than like a John Muir or UCSF. And if they, Stanford is actually in a partnership, I think, with Sutter. So I mean, Stanford's not gonna build a house. What you're seeing is, like Stanford bought I'm in Kaiser now, Stanford bought the largest private physician group here that was in Pinole and San Pablo. So they're buying physician groups. I mean, realistically, John Muir has said they would like to do more here. They build outpatient clinics out here. Where they're looking at is the North I-80 corridor. They wanna be close to the Berkeley, El Cerrito, Richmond market. So, you know, they may say UC Richmond Field Station or North Berkeley or Albany or South, I mean, I think they're gonna have, I've spent enough time on this to understand what they're thinking, which is we need it, they wanna locate and they're gonna put in, $1 billion, and they're gonna put $1 billion in if they have an operation that they feel is going to over time, provide some return.
And that's not what we need.
Well, what I'm saying though, if John here, you see that build a hospital, I would jump for joy, that would be great. Because it would add an emergency room and a hospital.
And in the meantime,
Right.
if you talk to nurses,
Yeah.
what they would like to see.
Yeah.
Is they would like to see a facility that's dealing with the significant opioid,
Mhm.
alcohol, fentanyl. Scooped off the street people with no insurance of any kind who take up a huge amount of resources. And they could be treated somewhere other than an emergency room where they ought to be treated, heart attacks and
Right.
wrecks.
There's a need for that, but
Desperately.
let me just say. Emergency medical and public health is a study. We need more emergency room beds in West County. We need what you say,
Yeah,
but we have a shortage of emergency room beds.
altogether,
And the only way you're gonna get an emergency room bed is a hospital. Under California law, you cannot build a standalone emergency room. We tried to do that when doctors was closed. We looked at a bill that would allow you just to have a standalone emergency room. Doctors and nurses don't want that,
Yeah.
so we need both. And we actually got some funding, the county is building in North Richmond a treatment facility for people who have substance abuse, previously homeless, near our homeless shelter. We got a pretty good sized grant for that. And that will
That
be
helps
treatment, and then we're doing a grand opening sometime in the next few months for our 54 unit permanent housing for previously homeless family in San Pablo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I
But we'll do it, why don't we just,
All the things.
we'll do a separate presentation just on the health, we'll have health department come, we'll do a presentation on that and the whole hospital situation. I think a lot of people think, oh, we can just open a hospital.
It's not easy.
You can't just open a hospital, and hospitals have to be part of systems. And the only systems out there are Kaiser, Sutter, John Muir, Tenet's not gonna open anything here, they're for profit. And there's no one else that's really gonna come into this market. And the other thing that makes this
Kaiser's
market
sorry that they are.
more difficult is this Kaiser has the largest share of commercial pay in West County. Meaning less Blue Cross, less Health Net,
Yep.
which is what makes it challenging for a Sutter and John Muir. Because Kaiser has a larger part of the commercial market here than they do in many places, which is because they were founded here, right?
Right.
So that's part of it. Okay, but
Well,
we'll
it's
do
also
a separate one on
live in
that.
West
I
County.
wanna get off health because it's not,
Yeah.
okay, but let me finish then, because I know we wanna hear from Councilmember Bonner.
I just wanna make a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
brief statement. There is a bill. Again, every 2 years, this bill comes out, it's called AB 2200 now. and it's CalCare. And you should read the bill and you should promote it, because a lot of these problems will be funded because of getting rid of private health insurance and having single payer health.
I mean, and the biggest, and the biggest challenge, by the way, the county is, county is sort of what you call, we're a health plan and a serve, I mean, we serve 200,000 people in this county. Almost 20% of the population gets their healthcare through that system. It's like a Kaiser, right, and it's
Yeah.
insured, but here, the biggest problem dealing with it pertaining to doctors, so you ask, why did doctors close, right? So simple numbers, think of these numbers, 80, 10, 10. 10% of the patients at that hospital were uninsured, that's not a problem, 10%. 10% were commercial pay. 80% were Medi-Cal or Medicare. Guess what? Reimbursement rates for Medi-Cal and Medicare from the federal government are less than the cost of providing service. Now, Medicare is higher, Medi-Cal is lower. How do you survive when you're making money on 10% of your customers? You don't. Now, if you're in another area where you may have 30 or 40% and a lot of Medicare, smaller Medi-Cal, and there was a lot of work done to increase Medi-Cal and hopefully Medicaid reimbursements, didn't happen. That's also why physicians close. So a lot of physicians don't take Medi-Cal for that reason. So think of that, doctors wasn't part of the system. It was the model of a standalone hospital doesn't exist today. They go out of business, period. They have to be, that's why Stanford has actually bought health practices here. UCSF has done that. John Muir has done that. So John Muir has extended out here by having its own outpatient physicians and a clinic, not a hospital. It sends them to their hospital in Walnut Creek and Concord. But so that was the primary, we have a large Medi-Cal population out here. And so you need a system that's gonna draw on a lot of commercial pay, which is why they John Muir would wanna get the Berkeley market and Albany and El Cerrito, where there's a larger percentage of non-Medi-Cal, plus Richmond. Right? The city, the county, we don't have money to support a hospital. I mean, right? You need a system that's gonna come in and ultimately and make it attractive.
Well,
Yeah, anyway, but we'll have a conversation.
The cost savings, but I don't really wanna take over the meeting, I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
And everybody should look
Okay.
into it, because it discusses.
And I'm gonna end and I know Councilmember Bonnett's gonna come up, we chatted a bit about some city-county collaborations. I wanna say one thing, I think there's opportunities we wanna do that, I just wanna say a couple things, one of the areas, as I said. In fire and emergency medical, the good news is we do have auto aid, the way it works. Is, Sobrante has 2 fire stations, one in the county and one in the city. Under auto aid, when you call 911 for a fire, the first truck responds, the one that's most available. So you live in the city, you may get the county or vice versa, depending on availability, all those things. Then the county runs the EMS system and the county fire contracts with AMR. In that partnership, they come and do the ambulance transport. So I will say one thing, and this is one area I think we're trying to help and collaborate. Richmond is, Sohail and I have talked about it. Richmond is the only city in the county that does not have paramedics on its fire engine. There are paramedics and EMTs. Paramedics have a higher level of training and can administer certain drugs with heart attacks and things. They can do more than an EMT. So the model that exists now is an engine-based paramedic system. So there's a paramedic always on the ambulance, always, right? But so if you call 911 and a Richmond fire, normally the fire engine will get there a little ahead of the ambulance, usually. So if the Richmond fire engine shows up, there'll be an EMT but not a paramedic. If the county fire engine shows up, there's a paramedic. So the county is gonna pay for a study for Richmond to analyze, what does it take, what is it gonna cost? Every fire agency in city that's within the, covers that. So look, this study will help Richmond hopefully they'll do the study and it'll help them look at what will it cost? How can we implement it? What will it take? But I think until you have that, there will be an imbalance in the level of care you get when the fire engine shows up. Not when the ambulance is there, but when the fire engine shows up. So I think that is something, an area that we can work on hopefully together. And I know you'll mention other things, I think opportunities of illegal dumping, dumpsters, wildfire, things like that, bike lane. So Ayla, Councilmember Vaughn, yeah.
Well, just a couple of quick things, you have a couple items down here about coffee with you and the sheriff's
Yes.
deputies. And also that there will be a confire preseason wildfire at this town hall, May 11th. I think you said it already.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, that's it.
Okay.
At the Knolls,
Yep, indeed, okay. All right, so we're going to put, so Haley's presentation is the second one on the agenda, was listed as fifth, but in the interest of having a good flow, and then after Haley gives her report, then we can take questions from back members in the audience, so Haley.
Thank you very much. It's more of an invitation than a presentation. Thanks to Mickey for putting this item on the agenda. And thanks to Supervisor Joya. We're gonna have a meeting in a couple of weeks actually and discuss in more details, whatever you think are issues of the city and county, because we are one community. And there are so many issues that fall in the cracks. For example, dumpster days. The city has its own dumpster day, the county has, you need to show your ID, which, jurisdiction you live in. For the first time, thanks to Ronnie and Stephanie from the city, at Hansford Heights, they decided to divide it and just accept from all residents, city or county within that geographical area, which makes sense. We should do it all over the Sobrante Valley, this one community, and just a little administrative work, we can get much better results, the things you can do for dumpsters and other things. One more thing I would like to suggest and invite you to provide comment feedbacks is illegal dumping. Thanks to the green team, you're doing an awesome job, but illegal dumping continues. I've requested the city of Richmond to install cameras for obvious reasons, and there are license plate reader cameras. For obvious reasons, they won't tell us the exact locations, but they have installed some. So maybe the county can request some license plate reader cameras along San Pablo Dam Road. Then the city and county join together and ask East Bay Mud to install cameras. I asked East Bay Mud, honestly, I haven't received a response. I think they may need a bit of pressure from Supervisor Joya. So that will help, and also Sobrante Mag. Similarly with East Bay Regional Parks, I mean, we're sick and tired of illegal dumps on Alhambra Road on the way to Orinda,
Yeah.
Then we can all join city and county and team up with San Pablo. The city of San Pablo owns an entrance to San Pablo Dam Road. We're tired of illegal dumping over there. I mean, the green team, imagine your energy is spent on other things. Taking care of illegal dumping.
Constantly cleaning that.
Yeah, so many other issues. So I hope we get to discuss city-county collaboration and just building one community. One last thing, I hope that Supervisor Joya and I will be reflecting the needs of all of you in El Sobrante, unincorporated El Sobrante and City of Richmond in El Sobrante Valley. Is having parks, John,
Yeah, you know what I brought?
working on it, but that's
I'll
not.
tell you, but you know what I brought after you're done? I found this study from 23 years ago that we were involved with the city at the time.
Excellent.
Studying parks in El Sobrante with some recommendations. And so, I'll bring a copy of this for you, and we'll look at it, yeah, right.
Fine, but that is spirit of collaboration, but that's a long term, I mean, it's gonna take at least a year or two or so for supervisor.
Already died.
Much longer than that. But for immediate needs, we requested the school district to provide access. They said, well, we give you access on weekdays, but not on weekends, we cannot afford it. So On my end, I can push the city to provide some funding, maybe the county, I don't know if that's
Oh, I
possible.
forgot to mention, I have a proposal we've made that's gonna go before the board of supervisors.
Good.
So we've been working with the school district and the superintendent, in fact, we have a meeting tomorrow morning. We are gonna provide about 400,000 a year of health funds. To pay for youth groups, nonprofit youth groups in West County to use school sites. And we're gonna partially fund a position for somebody the school district will have to run the program to use what you've been saying, the facilities more.
So the community.
So yeah, so what we're doing is, I don't know if you know that Samantha Torres, who's involved with a lot of the soccer, we've been working with her. So here's how this works, if you're, if you're a youth group and you wanna use the field, you pay $20 an hour. But you pay $70 an hour to have a custodian or maintenance person there the whole time, an hour before, an hour later. So we're gonna pick up that cost,
That's awesome.
100% of that cost.
Alright.
And we're gonna use health funding because it means more kids get out, exercise. And so that, but as part of it, we're working with the district to open those facilities up more. So that they're not always locked out, so that's part of it, let's see how this works. And a lot of the soccer groups, I'd say, people are saying let's build more soccer fields, which is great. But at first, let's use the field we already have more efficiently, because they're locked all the time, you said that. So we do have a plan, I think it's about 400,000 a year, it's in perpetuity, because it's health funding we get every year. And we would use it just in West County, just for nonprofit youth groups. So.
Just for now.
Not for youth, well,
But the secondary benefit, the community can get in when they're there.
right, we're starting, I mean, I think cities have a role in this too. I mean, so we're starting with, the way they do is we found they book their fields. And they book them up for periods of time. Like soccer, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, so they book them, and these youth groups that are our residents, right? Residents in El Sobrante and Richmond, whatever, that are in these groups. Can't go in and use them, right? And so now they will basically only have to pay $20 an hour to use it.
But it's just youth, right, John? The rest of us don't get
Yeah, that's
access.
Well, yeah, let me just say, I think maybe the cities can step up and cover that part, we're the biggest use of those fields. Oh, like 78% are youth groups. We're
Well,
taking out,
A lot
I'm
of,
just saying,
a
taking
lot of
data.
schools, I'm just looking
Yeah.
at, the schools in my neighborhood, they don't have soccer fields, but they do
Right.
have tracks where
We're-
people can walk and
Right.
they do have
Right.
equipment and that people can use.
Right, so we're basically working to subsidize opening the field, so if a soccer, if some activity's going on there. The field's open and anybody uses it, like I go to the MLK city track a lot, there's soccer going on there every single night. And I use the track, I walk
But
the
that's
dog.
not the
Interesting.
Sobrante, I mean,
No,
I.
but Nelson
we
Brown
need
came-
to have an agreement with the school that.
Right.
Because we don't have enough parks here. We are
Right.
fortunate to have Eastern
Yeah.
Regional Parks, but you need to be a climber to use
Right.
those parks, they're not community
But
parks.
so
they're
Hannah,
not-
this agreement covers every school, including the ones in El Sobrante, covers Piazza and.
No,
and-
what I'm saying, we need a special arrangement in El Sobrante,
Right.
especially because we don't have parks.
Yeah, well, I think as a city, the cities, tomorrow we have a representative from every city.
Supervisor Joya, this is city county collaboration.
You wanna put up $400,000 a year like we're doing?
I'm gonna, Parasha, I don't know what
Okay.
they.
Okay,
That
so
is
my point is,
collaboration.
but I think it's.
It's not my
No,
problem, it's
no,
it's.
So, but here's what it is, it's collaboration between the city and the school district on that issue, the county and the school district as well. I think there's an opportunity for the city, because a lot of these schools are in the city. For the city to collaborate with the school district. We are picking up the cost of every single school, whether it's in Richmond, San Pablo, El Sobrante, Canol, Hercules, North Richmond, whatever. For youth to use those fields,
I think we're talking about two different things.
right?
I really value
Yeah,
and respect what you're saying and it's awesome, I'm
Yeah.
totally supporting it. I'm in support of all soccer. I'm the one who started the discussion at the city level, and the result is that we're giving $4 million for new soccer fields.
Right, I have a question.
Here, I'm sorry, my point of inviting us to
Right.
work together in the city and county to team up and negotiate with the school district, all other entities.
No, that-
Make
that's
it
good.
better for development.
And the best way to team up is for each city to come up with some money. Let me just say, I'm just saying, money talks. Right, the school district, I will finish with this, has an agreement where it has to have staffing when people are using it. So they said, we'll talk to you all day unless you, but you have to have money. So that, the point is, I think if we as jurisdictions can get together and each put some money into it. That I think is our best chance, because the school district has budget cuts. They're gonna say, look, we don't wanna close classrooms to open fields. If you pay us, we don't have to close classrooms, so that was what we were trying to do.
Okay, so I'm guessing that are you still on your report or have you completed? I'm a little lost.
I'm done,
Okay.
good question.
All right, so questions from the MAC first, Melinda?
I just wanna make a comment on this idea of being able to use schools on the weekends in their athletic facilities. There are a lot of us who live in the county who pay our taxes and pay our school taxes, and we don't have children, and we don't resent that. Because we think children matter. On the other hand, if the only people who ever get access to those things are youth. This is part of the same public health conversation, because, fat old people need to get on the track too, And, it's
We love you,
just,
Melinda.
I just think that, if you're gonna talk to the superintendent tomorrow, you might mention that he's already getting a lot of funding from people who would like access to those properties. And I get it that it takes money, obviously, they don't have enough money despite what they do get, and that is of course a larger problem in California. We all know why schools are underfunded. But there are a lot of folks who just longingly look over at Olinda and say, why can't I be on that track?
On our weekends, and maybe one thought, so Hannah, just to speak out loud, is that where the city and county can work together is, while we're picking up the cost for youth fields everywhere. For adults, maybe the way to do it is the city picks up the cost for the schools in the city. We pick up the cost for the schools in the unincorporated area, in other words, the city, we don't have a responsibility to do parks in the city. But in the unincorporated areas, we could explore, do we have funding to help to the school district to help keep those fields that are in the unincorporated area open? Likewise, El Cerrito, Richmond, and San Pablo can come up with their parks budget.
Cause Olinda
money
is
right.
unincorporated.
Yeah, we could explore.
The ends is Richmond.
Right, so that, we could explore those things, so the city could come up, whatever city, come up with funding to the district to keep a field open on weekends for adults. And we're helping the cities out by keeping it open for young people. And then in the unincorporated areas, we can look at, do we have funding to keep something open for adults? I think that's a way to look at it, that's fair, because cities have responsibility for parks in their area. We look at the unincorporated, so that's that doesn't involve as much, we can work together, but it involves both of us putting our money on the table with the school district to get them to do it, but we're gonna pay. Not the cities, the county's gonna pay for a staff person at the school district to run this program.
Because
But it's actually
the
the-
main problem is that they don't have the staff to
Right.
open, to unlock and lock. If
Right.
you're providing that the staff person, there shouldn't be a problem.
Well, except they will only do that, that's the big cost when it's being used by youth. So the question is, how to cover that cost, if youth are using it and adults use it when the youth are using it, then you're right, we've got that cost covered. But there may be no, let's say a weekend, there may not be a youth group using it, but you want it open for adults, so somebody's gonna have to pay the cost for their staff. And again, my thought is get the city to pay for the city schools, and the county can look at how do we pay for the unincorporated areas.
Well, or
So-
maybe it's time to look beyond just government entities. This is the kind of thing
What do you-
Kaiser Foundation,
What do you mean?
Kaiser Foundation likes to put money into community health.
Yeah.
And that's a community health
Yeah.
thing.
Well, my experience with the foundations, they don't, may not be the kind of thing that will fund, but it's always worth a try.
Yeah,
So
well,
I have a-
specifically Kaiser Health.
Yeah,
But I think there's opportunities for us to play along and talk about that.
I have a interesting, it's good to hear that perhaps that other people be able to use that. The old Pinole High School, the old one before they tore it down, they had the track. Sometimes it was open, sometimes it was I'd walk the track. But then there was a youth group there and they were doing their soccer and what have you, and I said, oh, they said, no, you can't walk the track. I was like,
Sure you can.
they said no, that was a while ago, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean,
Because I think they thought because I was a single man and there were a lot of little kids there, they thought that I was pushing character, seriously, that's what I think it came to. Okay, any other questions for John, for Sue and then Vicky?
So I'm very excited to hear that there's going to be a little bit more permeability between our schools and our communities. Because at the moment, it's like these schools are fortresses almost against the community. This is really damaging for the kids in the schools, for the community members. We want to use this as a first inroad because we need better collaboration between our communities and schools. West Contra Costa is in many ways too big to naturally do that. So when you talk with the superintendent, this would be an opportunity for the schools to actually have a poster board that says, this is what's going on in your school, in your community, and invite people in and sort of get something going between them. So I applaud you very much for these efforts. I think it's very important. I think it's especially important in inner city areas that have less green space.
Hey, Vicky?
Okay, so I have a few things. First of all, thank you, Savannah, for coming and the collaborations, it's very good stuff. Love that. And hoping that it'll be an ongoing thing, maybe, I don't know if you want to come to our meeting. Yeah, and see what kind of progress or issues that are concerns to people here. With the superintendent, when you talk to him, can you ask him to step up their efforts to keep their school properties clean, because that's one of the areas that we are dealing with when we are, the green team is dealing with. I mean, it's always when the schools are in session, the grounds get a lot of litter around them. And I don't know why they're not taking more responsibility for that, and also not using it as a punishment for students to pick up litter, but as an extra credit or something like that. But yeah, and I've tried to communicate and we try to get things into the schools. I don't know how we can do that with flyers or about these events or encouraging the students to join our efforts as well. So if you can figure out how we can get that a little bit more.
I'm very glad to report to you that the school has been open. We never knocked on their door before. I did, so I approached the high school. I went in there and talked to the principal and told them that, you're part of the community. We should have communication and relationship and everything. Long story short, they said, yeah, we do have open hours where someone from the fire department could come and talk. Someone from the police department could come and talk. Then I'm starting a task force to end gender-based violence. And we are having the first pilot project at Piazza High for high school students about dating violence.
So we can do
about-
illegal dumping.
They've been awesome, great, especially at Piazza High, which is doing some pilot projects, and the school district as a whole. I work with Demetrio Gonzalez Oida, our trustee, representative from the area. Everybody's awesome. I have nothing to complain about except for that they're short in budget. But that suggestion, if you send me an email, I'll be happy to forward and see if there are ways to collaborate. The point of these discussions is just to discuss and see if there is a way, a solution. If not, you need to knock on the door, it may open.
All right, question.
Yeah, I'm not done.
Oh, sorry.
And also I'm curious about the curriculum. They do have some kind of environmental studies or recycling.
They actually have various programs in the schools. It differs by school. And there are programs, I know Sue, you ran programs, you were a teacher and read that.
Yeah.
But most of them have those, depends on the school, what they are, and I know they cooperated. In fact, when we run our coastal cleanup down at Marina Bay on coastal cleanup day. In the past, we would always get a lot of schools participating because their classes wanted to come down and do a service project. So I don't know, it depends on the school.
I mean, I think that we just need to keep that knocking on the door. And principals are very, very busy people, and yet nonetheless, we still need to keep knocking on the door. Okay.
There's so much pressure on them.
There
You know, my
is.
dad was a teacher at Kennedy High for 20 years. I mean, there's so much pressure on them to, raise test scores and raise GPA, reduce it. In fact, one of the projects we're working on, the superintendent and I chair a West County group of mayors or council members from every city, county, and the school district. We're meeting tomorrow. And one of the things we're working on, which has 2 wins, is reducing absenteeism. Because 1, it increases revenue to the school district a lot, and 2, it improves student performance.
Right.
It's documented, and health. So one of the priorities he's trying to work on with cities and the county is a strategy to reduce absenteeism.
Can I add something quickly?
Yeah, okay.
We're working on a mentorship program, so if you have to find 1 hour a week, mentor youth enrichment, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Including
Right.
reducing absentees.
Okay, so one other issue I wanted to bring up was, is Republic Services up for a renewal of their contract?
Yeah, for us, so here's what we're doing, a little different than what some cities are doing. We extended their agreement till the end, we're not quite on the same time schedule as the cities. So for the unincorporated areas, except Rodeo and Kensington. We don't cover those areas, we extended the agreement to the end of the year. And we put goals on what we want to achieve, so we are negotiating with them. And if we don't get what we want, so there's a lot of pressure on them. We will go out to an RFP, but we made a decision, unlike the cities, that we thought we could leverage them. To do certain things, like one of the things we're seeking to get are electric zero emission, non-polluting trucks in our neighborhood. Right?
Yeah.
So that you don't have polluting diesel trucks, and they said they will work with us on that. Be one of the first places to do that. So our county staff are working with them. And we'll see if we come up with an agreement that will then have public input and go to the board. If we don't, then we will go out. I think Richmond has already gone out. Our approach was, we're gonna see if we can pressure them to get what we want, we know what we want. And if we get it, we'll get an agreement, if we don't, we'll go out.
So
So that covers also.
can we ask if dump fees are on that? Because people are literally driving to Vallejo to dump stuff
Right,
because
so the
it's so
dump
expensive.
fees are not part of the franchise agreement. The franchise agreement only covers collection. The dump fees were issued in a permit.
Golden Gate Bear.
In a permit by both the city and the county 25 years ago, when the transfer station was permitted. Way back over 20 years ago, most of it's in the city, parts in the unincorporated area, there was a joint permit issue. That's a separate
Okay.
operation than the franchise.
Good to know.
But what we have done, and this is what we will do, we did this in a special agreement in Richmond. Where we can increase the free dump days you get to dump stuff. That's one of the things we can come and make a presentation about what we're trying to get in our.
Do we have
can do that.
dump fees?
Yeah, you.
Well, yeah, when he
Yeah.
brings the dump.
Twice
truck,
a- well, also twice a year, you can put whatever you want out on your curb and get it picked up, but was also.
But
a
it's
program-
Well, not whatever you want.
What's the item?
Right,
$15?
so what we will talk about is vouchers, like in North Richmond.
Mm.
Almost every it's interesting about all the dumping that's there, almost every North Richmond resident. Can get a voucher almost any time they want to dump.
So
So we're talking,
Those are good.
yeah, so that's one thing we'll talk about for here is more vouchers for residents to use to go take their stuff to the dump. Rather than the dumping fees, because we don't wanna
Yeah,
subsidize people
right,
coming from
right.
other places
Yeah.
on the dump.
Right,
So we had a question online, when are the free dump days for El Sobrante?
Well, we have to plan our next one.
Yeah, we don't have a date just yet, but
Please don't do it on the third Saturdays.
I'm leaving you, I'm told that I have to leave, so you have, all the questions now can go to you, I just want to say.
Question and.
Yes, we will. And I would say, I left the article on the front page of today's paper about our wonderful Head Start preschool program that we run across the county where many El Sobrante children are in that program along with Richmond. And so I just put an article there about our Head Start preschool.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's one other thing about, it, and Eddie, brought that up, which was a really interesting idea. They're trying to get more control over the apartment buildings when people move out. Requiring them to get a handle on it and make sure people aren't just throwing things out onto the street, which is what they tend to do.
Right?
That they have to, yeah.
So not supposed to,
But somehow or another work
Right.
with the apartment owners
right?
to step up with that, right?
Yeah.
I will say one thing we try to do in our registration as it work, we passed an ordinance to require anybody who hauls junk or garbage in the unincorporated areas to be registered. I think only 4 or 5 entities have
I
registered
think it's less than.
because nobody gets a permit. And these are who's contributing to illegal dumping, we found, are a lot of these haulers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who then
Freelance, yeah.
they'll, if you're paying somebody $20 to haul your stuff, know that it's not going to the dump.
Right.
It's ending up on someone's street in probably in Richmond, maybe also Brownie, because they don't wanna pay a dump fee, even though they're a business person. That's what we found a lot happening.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any questions from the audience, either in the room or online? We have one behind, you haven't been very patiently waiting.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make kind of a comment around the access to the schools on weekends. I mean, I'm a mother of 2 young children and access is super critical for me. When I moved to El Sobrante or technically Richmond, but this area in 2020, like all of the schools were open. And this was the beginning of the pandemic. We would access, after in the evenings, on the weekends. Like sometimes you had to go through a back gate, but they were not as locked as they are now. Since then, the only thing I've seen is like more fences being built. Sheldon specifically, they've built fences, like all I'm seeing is money spent on fences and not money spent on facilitating access. And I'm just wondering, where does that 5.6 million of MRAD go? Which would
Yeah, that's
be-
their money for their, I think that whole idea of opening up school field in joint agreement, right, makes a lot of sense, and I think. We're opening the door to that by paying to open it up during these periods of time. I think the idea is how do we expand it, getting the cities, the county, the school district, all trying to figure it out, I mean, I do, one of the issues that happened that caused some closure, I remember where there was. One of the soccer fields at Kennedy and Richmond were there was vandalism.
I think that was like 2016.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
I'm sure it's like.
Yeah, and what happens is their lawyers tell them, oh, there's liability, you gotta close your facilities. And then they have this new policy where they need to have district staff there. So I think it's sorting that out, you're right, so that the fields can be open more, but understanding their own financial sort of the issues. The only way we're gonna get them to open it is to help them with their financial challenges themselves. So they can probably get, figure out how you get people there to sort of monitor, they currently require to have some oversight there. So, yes, I've seen the same thing happen.
And in the MRAD engineers report, it says the public should have access 60-70% of the time.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been going.
Right,
for them.
And you're raising that at those district meetings, yeah, and that may be an issue that we can take up in this group, because there's representatives, there's a council member or mayor from each of the 5 cities. Plus the school district and the county, and then this is a common issue for everybody. And I'll raise it tomorrow at the meeting of maybe how do we look at discussing that more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And maybe nonprofit partners could help.
Yeah.
Really.
Any other comments from, okay, yes, 1, 2, and 3, okay, go ahead, you first.
Just this is actually for Mickey, I live in a condo complex and, similar thing, people aren't supposed to dump stuff. So we get a lot of people coming and using our dumpsters. that are not, you know, our members, so just FYI. It's an issue for us.
Since Harry's chatting with John, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Hi, Tony from SOS. Melinda, I wanted to, I wanted to build on something you said about nurses in emergency rooms and
Yes.
people, okay? So just as an FYI, SOS is about to get funded to do harm reduction work in the field.
Yay.
So that includes, I mean, we think of harm reduction, the narrow version is how, if you're gonna take drugs, how to do it and not kill yourself. But we also think about it as like wellness, you know, like cleanup and water, but specifically harm reduction, we're working with HIV education prevention project with Alameda County, who's like deep experience. So we're gonna hire a harm reduction specialist, and they're gonna train 2 of our staff to do needle exchange and get supplies. We already have Narcan, but we're gonna get more training, more supplies. So we're upstream, so people, you know, aren't dying.
Being scooped off the floor.
People aren't dying, we hope, and aren't as sick and aren't, you know, ending up in the hospital as much as possible.
Great. I did needle exchange for many years in San Francisco on the streets
Yeah.
in the middle of the night. So, yeah, I'm down for it.
Harry is the last comment and then.
I was gonna ask John about that meeting
Okay, all right.
and the dealing.
Is there anybody online that has any questions for council member Ivana?
Let me see.
We got a bunch of chat when people were just saying they couldn't get in, and the question was asked about the drop off and the dump days, we'll call it.
Yeah,
All right,
and Ronnie, you'll just notice in the chat that community, info at Community Villages wants to make sure they're on our mailing list because they didn't know about the dump days.
okay.
And they're such a great, fabulous local
Yes, they are.
Organization, so thank you again for coming.
Of course, so, last word to you, please follow up on the request for the license plate reader cameras on San Pablo Dam Road in an incorporated area. And let's have these discussions, this is, I think, very useful. Okay, then, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, so Ayla, thank you for
Thanks,
coming meeting, next up
Oh,
for the presentation is Confire. And I see lovely and talented person Confire, whose name I've completely blanked on.
Michelle Reinhardt, thank you very much.
I was gonna say that actually, but I was thinking it was wrong. Michelle, the floor is yours. Go ahead with the Confire report, please.
Hello, Chair Lang, Vice Chair Cleveland, and respected MAC board members. I welcome Councilmember Bana. I enjoy working with her on a continuing basis, and most of all, the residents in attendance. I'd like to encourage residents to apply for our low-income exterior hazard control program. This program allows for $1,500 to address Zone 0 defensible space projects. Zone 0 is the area 0 to 5 feet from your home. It does require last year's tax return to verify income on a sliding scale. Please redact your social security number as it is not needed to determine eligibility. I want to provide some clarity of the wildfire mitigation program and its status, which is funded by Measure X dollars. The most important takeaway is the residents of West County region will continue to be heavily engaged with our program. Everyone has made a concerted effort to reduce fuels in the area, and congratulations on your great work. We also would like to manage expectations on future projects, considering the Contra Costa Wildfire Mitigation Program is intended to be used throughout Contra Costa County. We do not plan on denying requests. However, projects in West County may be placed on hold until we are able to catch up in other areas of the county. Exploring funding options is a part of my position as the county coordinator, and the goal is to increase the ability to complete projects identified by the residents of Contra Costa County, not covered under the current funding allocation through Measure X. One example is the proposed East Richmond Heights shaded fuel break. We are currently waiting to hear back on our grant application, and I will keep you informed if our application is accepted. Some background on this. On January 9th, the board approved the application for a Confire grant in the amount of $1.1 million for a 73-acre shaded fuel break project in the East Richmond Heights area. This application was submitted on January 10th. The intention of a shaded fuel break is to reduce fuel loads relative to the areas outside of the fuel break. And the shade provided by the canopy improves the microclimate conditions of the underlying fuels. The shaded fuel break is intended to help reduce fuel loading while also providing a defensible position for fire crews to engage in fire suppression. Letters of support were received from the City of Richmond and the East Bay Regional Park District. I would like to thank representatives from Supervisor Joya's office and Supervisor Joya, who currently have a map available for your review. Again, I'd like to thank them for their collaboration and ongoing support on this project. And I thank you for your time, and I'm open to questions.
Questions from the MAC? Go ahead, Sue.
It looks like you must be reading a document perhaps, and I was hoping you could actually send that because you had so much information there. It's so important. And I would
Oh,
like
of
to
course.
get it out to the members of, I have a fairly large listserv of local neighbours. And we
Of
want
course.
to hear about this. I'm also going to be doing Firewise work.
Yes.
And this would be a useful thing to be able to collaborate together.
Firewise is a very important component to our program under wildfire mitigation. Firewise status allows for, let's say for a community chipping program, allows for 8 residents instead of 10 to engage in a community chipping day event. So that request would be made by the leader of a chipping event. And I do have.
We did one of those.
Great. And now we have the ability to add a flyer to make that process a little easier for the people that are organizing the community chipping event. So I will also put the link to Firewise available through our website at www.cccfpd.org. And I am happy to send to you a summary of what I've covered this evening.
Excellent. Any other questions from the MAC? Any questions for Michelle from either online or in the room? All right, Michelle, thank you so much for coming to the meeting. You give us the report and the information. We appreciate you taking the time to see us. Thank you so much.
Of course, and I'll see you next month. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, do we have anybody online from either the base station or the CHP for the law enforcement part of this program? Okay, and nobody from either of the agencies in the room? All right, so I guess the next thing, because we've done the other presentations from Supervisor Joy and Councilmember Bana, discussion items, which is development plan applications, variance reports, building modifications, requests, appeals, etc., received in the previous month from the Contra Costa County Conservation and Development Department, and notices of public hearings. There aren't any. Stage one, information items. Are there any information reports from MAC members? Yes, Melinda.
You all may have noticed that our sign is up.
Yeah.
On the and in some ways, that's a very small step in a very large project. But it's significant, and we also now finally have a lot of our approvals in line. And today we even found out that we might have a lead on the large electrical plan we need that we have not been able to get because of supply chain problems. So it's possibly we built by the end of the year, that's all I'm gonna say. And then the second thing, I know, crazy. The second thing is that we're definitely gonna be opening our farmers market. It may not be on the 7th, stay tuned for it being maybe on the 14th or the 21st
Of April.
of April. And part of what's wrong with the 7th is a whole bunch of people from Planting Justice want to go see the eclipse. So. Unfortunately, like celestial phenomena.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, right, so we may wait till the 14th and the 21st We were also waiting to get more vendors lined up, and some vendors didn't wanna come
How
on.
will the community hear about it?
I will make so much noise at the point when I have, you'll see it everywhere. Yes, we will change the sign at the sign.
Okay.
Where right now it just says, coming 2024, we will actually put the farmer's market sign on there. As soon as we can confirm the date, and we will put it out to next door, we will put it out to all of our networks. So Haley's mailing list, John's mailing list, we will send it every which way but loose, and, yeah, it should be good.
Okay, excellent. Any other information reports from the back? Anybody have any questions for Melinda's report? Yes, sir.
Is this gonna be a weekly event?
Yeah, so the plan is to have it every Sunday from 12 to 4. And I know as one of our business neighbors down the way, we think that Sundays, with the built-in dog leg, it's really not that big of a problem to shut down that part of Sobrante just on Sunday in the afternoon. So we don't think that's gonna be a problem, and but we wanna hear anything we can do to make life better for you guys too, as one of our business owners, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other information reports from MAC members? I don't see any, so let's go to subcommittee reports, and this is litter cleanups, that would be.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this coming Saturday, March 16th is our third Saturday cleanup. I'm happy to report that we're doing pretty good in town, driving around, it doesn't look too bad.
And the green team is wearing St. Patrick green.
With the day before. But there is trash, and I think a lot of the reason why we don't see the litter is because it's been so rainy. And it's probably pounded into the earth, but we're going forward with our third Saturday. You're all invited to join us, 10 to 12 here, meet here, and we'll give you the equipment, and you can pick out a location. If anybody has a place in mind that they've noticed that needs some attention, please let us know, so we'll send our volunteers out that way. But really, the thing that we're gearing up for is Earth Day, April 20th, 420, Earth Day is. And so we're very excited about that because we're making a big outreach. We've got postcards in English and Spanish, and we started putting them out in the business areas. And I'd like to offer everybody here postcards. Hope you'll join us. This one's going to be an interesting one. We're partners again with the library and SOS Richmond and Spotters and the Chamber of Commerce and the Green Team. And so we're gonna have our cleanup from 9:30 till noon, and then we're going to have a community celebration where we'll just have some community celebration, and we have a special musician that the library or the Friends of the Library has sponsored to entertain us with Guru Shiva. And he's a calypso reggae Caribbean musician, and he's well known to the library apparently. And so we're excited about that. And that will be from 11:45 till 2. We'll have some food for our volunteers who bumped us. And we'll have a big dumpster here so people can bring their bags here, and we're gonna try to, on that one day, to hit up as many areas of town as we can. Hopefully we'll get a lot of volunteers, so I'm asking people to please we made 1,000 postcards this time, which is a lot more. So if you have some places where you can set them out or give them away to people, churches are a good way. Scout troops, the shed, if you want to take some extra postcards there. We're gonna have info tables too, and we'd like to invite the nonprofits or not-for-profit groups in our area to set up a table. I sent out an email today to some people who, if you know people who wanna set up, let us know, and it has to, unfortunately. We cannot invite businesses to table. Because the library has a policy about commercial entities not being able to sell their products on the grounds here, or even to promote them.
That's too bad.
Yeah, that's good. But anyway, we'll thank our sponsors who will be providing some of the food for us, and we can do that verbally from the stage, but
There you go.
not in a writing
No, and let me add one thing to my thing for the farmer's market.
Yeah.
If you would like to be a vendor at the farmer's market, and I'm looking at you, Heather. It's not gonna be just food. We also are quite welcome to have people who've made art or wanna do those kind of booths. So if you're interested in that, I can tell you exactly who to talk to about what that means.
Anything else, Wendy?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Ronnie if we can have access to those a water container or two.
Already asked.
You already asked him, you got it? Okay, great.
Just send me an email to follow up.
Oh, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the next one would wanna come and support us and maybe set up a table
Earth Day?
on Earth Day.
Okay.
Yeah, it,
All right.
you know, it'd be nice to let people know about our meetings, and
Yeah.
we have a little live.
Yeah, we can do that, I think, that's something, Ronnie, if you could coordinate with the supervisor's office so that we can have a table at the Earth Day celebration.
I'd be willing to share half my table.
There you go, we share the
I
table.
bring a big table and I don't really need a big table.
And you have a canopy too, because they don't.
I do have a canopy, but I don't wanna bring it up, have to.
Well, the supervisor's office doesn't have one, or if they do, it's in cold storage somewhere offsite. I'm kidding, so not really, they don't.
Why don't you bring it, because, I mean, we'll have a couple extra.
All right, great, that's cool.
But I am willing to share the table.
All right, I don't
Okay,
think,
but we might have an extra canopy too, because I know it gets really sunny, I'm almost unbearable.
all right, I don't see any other subcommittee reports, so next on the agenda item, speakers for upcoming meetings. Obviously, the health report that we talked about will be one of them, the Department of Conservation, et cetera, to come and talk to us again about the noise concerns is another. Anybody have any other, yes, Sue?
Just want to put on, I asked Ronnie and Tom Lang to put the crime abatement at the top of Clark Road
Okay.
onto the agenda for the next time.
And so, you know,
And so, Halo, okay, so we've got 4 things already set up for the agenda for the April meeting, that's great.
I think so.
Yes, sir.
For a future meeting, I need to have some accountability for police chases in and around our neighborhoods and our. 2 weeks ago today, I was coming from Orinda, I was going to Orinda, and I was almost involved in a horrific police chase that to me was very unnecessary, and I would like some accountability from somebody, the highway patrol.
Sorry, the sheriff didn't, I would have told him to show up tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there's these articles about tragic toll of police chases in the paper and stuff. And so I really want some follow-up about what we can do about that. I feel like it's become a major safety issue. And I tell you, if I hadn't swerved, my car would have been hit. That's how close it came. So it's very concerning to me, and what I saw was completely unnecessary, because when somebody's being chased on San Pablo Dam Road, there's nowhere to go. The chase didn't need to happen. They could have stopped them at, you know, by barriers at the other end and or helicopters. So I just would like.
And the guy, say what the guy did, that they chased him all over and put everybody else.
It started in Lafayette and he was robbing a Taco Bell and he had a 7-year-old child in the car. It was just insane what happened, but.
So we would hope then that
They wouldn't even
the
chase
police
the guy.
would show up at the next meeting, because you would have been able
Talk over his
to
head.
voice that instead of tonight, had they shown up.
But it's more than just voicing my concern.
I know, I was just saying that
Yeah.
you would have been able to present this to them had they been here.
Correct.
So hopefully they will be here next week, next month, so you can tell them again basically, why are you doing this? Because it doesn't make any sense, you're right,
Okay,
okay.
we'll look at that.
All right, next up, public comment for items not on the agenda, 2 minutes per speaker limited. And I'm going to start because the back starts and I'm gonna start because I have two things. One, at last meeting, I found out after the fact that I jumped the gun on talking about the El Sobrante Pride celebration. I said, it's gonna be from 1 to 5. The date's correct, June 9th. Time 1 to 5, that's not correct. Location is still to be determined. So there is an El Sobrante Pride Facebook page that will have the information, but it is happening, it's just the kinks are being worked out. It's the first one for El Sobrante. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm on the committee that's putting together, so is Melinda. And so is Sohaila. And so it's gonna be a good event. I encourage people to show up.
June 9th.
Sunday, June 9th, in the afternoon. I think now it's gonna be from noon to 4, but that's still to be determined.
A Friday parade?
No, it's just
It'd be an event.
It's an event, it's an event, so it's gonna be a big event. And the second thing is not, technically not MAC, but it's something for folks to consider, they have time. I've been retired now for, believe it or not, 5 months, which is a surprise. And one of the things I've started to do is working with Meals on Wheels. And they have a need for drivers in the area, and it's basically all West County. And I've noticed it because my neighbor down the street has the magnetized signs on the cars, you know, the advertising that we Meals on Wheels. And he's kind of the husband and wife, he's kind of, I don't know what his exact title is, but his role's kind of like a coordinator kind of thing. But it's worthwhile because there are members of this community that need that assistance because of their, whether it's income level or whether it's just they are disabled, whatever the issue is, they need that help. And it's very rewarding because in a lot of cases, it's that you might be the only person they see all day or possibly all week. And so it's something that you're helping them, you know, and I find it very rewarding. And I recommend it. The website is wccmow.com. I think that's what it is. Look it up. I had it on my phone.
Or maybe it's .org.
It's .com. wccmow.com. It's basically Wisconsin Meals on Wheels.com. WCCMOW. So check it out and get in touch with them. They're looking for people to deliver the meals during the week. It's Monday to Friday thing. So that's my public comment. Anybody else on the MAC have any public comment?
Well, I just wanted to ask about the PNC. What
Oh,
happened to the PNC?
that was the thing that I forgot to mention on the subcommittee reports. I guess we need I don't know who we get the update from because we want to resuscitate the zoning and planning subcommittee.
Oh, subcommittee.
Well,
No,
committee, whatever, it used to be, it's a separate committee, my apologies. Because it was a part of the MAC for the longest time.
It was always, well, it's sponsored by the.
Well, what I'm trying to say, and saying it incorrectly, there was a committee. The committee would make a presentation at the MAC meetings. I remember them quite a bit when, on my first stint on the MAC, Eleanor Lloyd in particular would bring the presentation. Then apparently the committee and the presentations went away. Now we're trying to resuscitate it. And I forget who we need to talk to besides the chamber to get it going again.
The chamber, and I've talked to not Elson, not the manager. The one across from the high school neighborhood council.
Oh, all right.
They were the
Yeah,
other sponsor, Maybell.
All right, so that's another.
But I haven't heard back from them, sorry.
Another agenda item, Roddy, for next month is status update on
So
the.
Tom will be the guy. Tom started with.
I just wanna put it on the agenda, so we remember it. So zoning and planning committee,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
All
Is
right,
anyone here on the chamber?
I think the only one is Thomas, the chair is, he's on the chamber. Okay, any other
Members, do you go?
any other public comment from back members? All right, to the public, go ahead, Harry.
Public wouldn't be you guys. Okay. I was confused when you said public comment from the MAC.
Well, we start with, the reason I start with, the reason I do it in public comment, I start with the MAC and then the audience, so.
You guys are not the public. You are the
It
MAC.
doesn't.
No, you're not.
Go ahead, Harry.
Okay, speak your piece.
Don't confuse me. I
What's that?
wanted to say, I didn't mean to interrupt when healthcare was being discussed. And it's obvious that there's a hell of a need for money for healthcare. And it is so confusing how local governments and county governments are having to pull together some different funding sources to make it work. And John was talking about that, and I wasn't trying to make light of all of that. But there is a bill moving forward in the state. And there's a man, Ryan Skolnick, who gave my Democratic Club presentation from the nurses, California nurses. And his presentation can be done on the Zoom meeting. And he has a deck, and he's very convincing, and it's also very informative about how it would work, how it would be funded, how much money it would cost, and how much money would be saved. And so I would like you guys to put that on your agenda. I can give you this guy's email address. And I think it would be very informative, and maybe it would move the MAC to support and send a letter of support to our state reps.
Okay.
Was it a state bill?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
state.
it's a Senate bill.
It's a Senate.
That's
No, it's AB.
It's AB 2200.
It's not a Senate bill, it's an AB bill, and ultimately, there's a whole lot of steps where the public has to get involved. But
And that can advise support.
Yeah, we can. So you're asking that this individual make a presentation of the MAC?
yeah, that you put it on the agenda
Okay.
and have the guy join you via Zoom.
Okay, we can
And
do
it would
that.
be very informative, and also, yeah, it will be very helpful for every individual in the state of California in terms of health costs.
Would the MAC be okay with Howard just providing that information directly to Ronnie and John and have it put on the agenda? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So if you wouldn't mind.
So it's not something that we're voting on, it's something that, it's a bill there.
Yeah, you
They
would,
have to, that they
Yeah.
have to, like changing the daylight saving time.
Yeah.
Like that one, yeah.
like, it would be a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
So.
Probably, but that's not very complicated, what they said, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So we're
All
not-
right, any further public comment? Okay, Chris, and then, what is your first name, please? Heather, so I don't have to say hey you or you.
Heather is amazing.
Okay.
Heather, meet George. George, meet Heather.
Hi, Heather. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, I have three things I want to bring up. The first one is kind of connected to the cleaning, illegal dumping stuff that Pittsburgh is doing stuff on illegal dumping. And among them, they're increasing the fine to $1,000. They're adding extra enforcement. They said at that $1,000 fine, if they ticket 100 people, that'll cover the cost of cleanup for the year. And then the other thing is that they also are making the vehicle owner responsible, so they don't have to prove the individual is dumping. So I just thought I would bring that to your attention, how they're approaching the issue. Another thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't know what role I may have in it, but this is about the Public Utility Commission. As we know, they pretty much demolished solar energy last year. It got jacked up rates by a really significant amount, like 20%. And then gave themselves all big raises and bonus and took high profits off of it. And now they've gotten a new approval again this year for an increase of about $60 per year per household. I was wondering, there's a MAC. It's $5 a month, $60 a year. Or except actually it was a little less than that because it was something where they had to get some authorization to get it if it was.
It's the point of it.
Yeah, the point of it is that anything that the MAC can do about looking into PUC, which could include, for example, maybe asking that the grand jury of the county look into what is going on with the PUC and PGE, that they're able to do all this stuff. And then they're talking about the next wave of increases after this, so that's a second thing. Is there anything that could be done at this level of the MAC about that?
No.
That's a question I pose to you. I don't encourage you to go right now, because I had time for one more thing, which is I wanted to ask Ronnie about that public notice that I brought from the East Bay Times at the last meeting. It was 6 pages. Laying out the zoning of the county in a way that I didn't know what was the point of what they were doing there. Did you find out why they ran a 6-page public notice?
Not yet, I did bring that to Supervisor Joya's attention. The information in the diagrams were posted from 2012, 2013. So I'm trying to find out what that is. And
I just wanted. Yeah, because like somebody spent a lot of money putting that in there, and I didn't see anything that seemed like I needed to deal with it. I thought I wanted to find out and the MAC, you know, so.
yeah, I haven't heard anything yet.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I come up here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Heather Ferguson, and I am with the shed, which is on the same property as the Good Table and Planting Justice. And so I just wanted to give an update about the shed. Things are moving along. Hopefully, most of you know a little bit about it. And let's see, so we've received a number of nice donations. Solar panels, tables, a sales desk, and we received a substantial financial donation that will allow us to fund the next phase of the construction. We're looking for more donations, however, for construction, operations, and for classes. For classes, we need things like scissors, tools, sewing machines. We've received 1 portable sewing machine, but would like to get at least 4 more to our classes. So just throw that out. We have a website. Our website is up and running, the shed Sobrante.org. And you'll start seeing also more advertising as soon as we get our sign up for our occupancy. And we're ahead of schedule. From the Planting Justice, we're a smaller building. So we're looking to have classes starting, hopefully next month. But we're gonna have classes both during the week and on the weekends. That's about 108 classes or more.
Wow.
Classes on?
What?
What are the classes?
So the classes will loosely fall under the following categories. Woodworking, creative, sewing, our home, community, and I'm throwing out storytelling. There will be things like bench making, bird and bat houses, sewing and knitting, watercolors and sketching, mushroom propagation, pruning.
A lot of stuff, overwhelmed already.
Yeah, and things like personal finance, and also a friend of mine has been walking the Camino in Spain, if you guys know about that. And I'd like to have her teach class about that. The class sizes are about 4 to 12 students. We can only do a max of 12 students.
Cause it's a very small building.
Because it's a very small. And we also have a little bit of a retail space. And our retail space will be open for the farmers markets. But we're looking for both teachers and artists and also volunteers. Because there's about 4 of us that doing all of this, so I know everybody else is involved in a lot of things, but it's getting word out. And if there's people that, again, you guys know about that are either artists or teachers or would like to be part of this thing.
What's the, are you triangle versus?
And the shed is a project of triangles.
So you guys are gonna have a table hopefully at our.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments?
But they're not gonna sell anything.
They're not commercial.
I see, any other public comment from the floor or online? we have Anne Marie and then you. Okay, go ahead, Anne Marie.
Oh, yeah, I had a question for the shed, when you'll be updating your calendar of when the classes actually start, because I went online, I think last week, and it doesn't have a lot of information regarding classes.
The day that we get the notification that we have occupancy is the day I will start publishing that, yeah. We don't really need a lot of electricity.
They're actually off the grid.
but
Oh,
yeah, we'll be off the
okay.
grid, so,
Just part of whether they can get
Okay.
occupancy.
That's what-
All right, so basically,
yes,
all right, cool, so
Yeah.
basically this is,
thank you for visiting and, yeah, look again, soon.
all right, then I think our last public comment here before we go is from Sue, go ahead, Sue.
Betsy, I'd love to thank you guys for making this wonderful sounding thing happen in our little town. It sounds amazing. Looking forward to seeing what it looks
You're
like.
flying back video. I'm telling you that already. Buy your ticket in advance.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is much less cheery, I'm really sorry to do this, insurance. I'm talking about fire insurance, earthquake insurance. I suspect that there are many other people who are experiencing sticker shock with reduction of coverage. And I feel anxious about this happening to individuals when we don't know kind of what's happening at a broader rate, because we are in both fire zone, earthquake zone. And I mean, my insurance for earthquake is just like ridiculous, and it's also covering almost nothing. And I'm like, why? Why would I even do this? I don't know what we do with that. I do know that I'd quite like some sort of report of this area and what's going on with.
We can drop down homeowners insurance as of April.
Yes, I mean, what the heck?
Two houses in house.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I think that we would refer to John, and maybe he can consult with our local government representatives in the Assembly and the State Senate and.
Or the California Insurance Committee. That's supposed to be everything.
Him too,
Is
okay.
it him? I don't even know who the insurance commissioner is.
So,
Oh, right.
so, okay,
But our member of Congress, Garamendi, was the first insurance
Yeah.
commissioner and might have, this might be something we could reach to him for
that
too.
would be a good idea. If there's no other public comment, we got two online, go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to come off mute very quickly. At the last Board of Supervisors meeting, Supervisor Diane Burgess mentioned that the insurance concern was quite great throughout our county. And she was making a statement that she was going to be working with the county administrator. So the more information that comes available from Supervisor Burgess's office or from the Department of Insurance, I will be happy to share with you.
Excellent,
Thanks for being our inside voice on the county.
thank you, Michelle. Anne
Well, I don't know
Marie.
about inside, but if it's brought up, part of my position is I can't endorse a product or speak specifically to an individual resident's policy, but I can serve as somewhat of a hub of information. And so I want to make sure that we're meeting the residents' concerns and helping in any way we can.
Well, we just like that you're at the meetings.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Last comment from Anne Marie, and then we're gonna adjourn.
Yeah, just a comment. I saw some postings on Nextdoor recently saying that people who are losing their insurance were wondering all the Firewise things that we're doing in our community, like on Nextdoor and these workshops and all this attention given to it, that if that's the thing that's triggering the insurance companies, which I thought was interesting because I didn't think of that before.
No, they just don't wanna do it anymore. So because it's not making them money. So, all right, in that case, I will say that we can adjourn this meeting at 8:48 PM. Thank you, everybody.